Judo teaches you a lot of things. I mean, besides the physical stuff, you learn to be humble. You learn to be able to take punishment and come back and get back up and fight again.
Rusty grew up in Coney Island, Brooklyn. That was pretty rough, a rough area, and she also had a tumultuous childhood.
Brooklyn attitude, as far as I'm concerned, is first knowing what you're doing, being right, and following through, and never stop following through on what you believe in.
There was a stray dog in the neighborhood, and everybody in the Coney Island area, everybody called that dog Rusty because it was a stray, it was a survivor, and she decided she will be named after that dog.
She was on the street, she was in gangs, she had to survive. She was really on her own. And then she found Judo at the Y. She said, oh, this is good. But that was it, just like me. You fell in love with it.
Judo was actually the gentle way. She embraced the philosophies, the gentle philosophies, the cooperative philosophies, the unselfishness of the sport. And she also embraced the physical part of the sport because all of her channeled anger, all of her energy that was all over the place was now contained within a sport with rules. And she loved it because there's a forum where she could actually fight and not get in trouble.
Coming from the streets of Brooklyn, especially from Coney Island, kids, teenagers have a chip on their shoulders for one reason or another, and they need to express themselves, and some of them have to do it physically. And one of the best ways is with a controlled sport, where you find the attachment. You have an extended family in judo. You have structure. You have discipline. Every single thing a person needs to survive.
And she couldn't believe that a little guy was picking up a big guy and tossing him all around. And she's like, and you're allowed to fight. This is amazing. But when she looked around, she realized there were absolutely no women. She would learn judo, say on a Monday, and then the very next day at the YMCA, she would teach that lesson to a women's class. The irony of, again, breaking barriers is that she started and taught at the YMCA, which is at that time the Young Man's Christian Association. So, and her being a Jewish woman, it was very interesting.
They had a commercial for a martial arts school. It was judo, karate, a bunch of martial arts. So as a little girl, I looked at that and I was like, wow, that would be such a cool thing if I could throw somebody across the room like that. I kept asking my parents. They finally took me to the local judo school. I was the only girl. I took one judo lesson. I fell in love with it.
I probably would have done better if I had more women to fight against, to practice with. There really wasn't anybody for me to play, except the guys. It was hard because, I loved the sport. Certain things I wouldn't try because I know I was going to get slammed. But I didn't care, I just kept going. Rusty did a little clinic, and I went. As soon as I met her, we talked, and we lived. Literally, in the beginning, we lived like 3 blocks from each other. So we became friends. We became good friends. It started with that medal they took away from her.
The 1959 championships at the Utica YMCA, she went with her teammates to cheer them on, and one of her teammates got injured. So the coach said, hey, you know what, Rusty, I'm going to put you in. She took an ace bandage and wrapped it around her chest so that she blended in a lot better. And the coach told her, just go for a draw. She's like, well, why would I not do my best? Judo teaches you to do your best. And she threw her opponent for a full point. The team won the competition, and because of that, I guess somebody complained and said, hey, she's a woman. So the tournament director asked her, hey, are you a girl? And she's like, she said, I'm a woman. And he's like, well, women aren't allowed to compete, so we need your medal back or your team's going to forfeit.
They took the medal away from her. And that started it. It just grew. She didn't like, women should be able to do what men do, have the same rights and opportunities as men.
She spoke with her sensei in New York and said that she wanted to learn judo in Japan and keep studying and keep practicing. So they made arrangements and she went to Japan and she practiced in the Kodokan. There were two sides. There was the men's side and the women's side, but she wanted more. So she kept on asking if she can go to that side, go to that side. And finally, they let her in.
She was the only one and the only woman that was ever invited into the men's dojo. I think because she was tough, strong. I don't think they know what to do with it.
There was news cameras and news stories because nobody saw a woman that big. Nobody saw a woman that strong. They wanted to see who was this woman, including my father. She actually became friends with him. And they practiced together and they just became really good friends. So when it was Rusty's time to come home from Japan, they decided they're going to keep in touch. After that, my father had the opportunity to go anywhere in the world he wanted to teach. Out of any place in the world, he selected the United States, New York. He had to find Rusty.
I met Rusty when I was approximately 11 years old. We were all in our gis walking across the lawn to the dojo. And I looked over and I just saw this. All I could think of is just a powerful presence, just power. And I said, who is that woman?
She started seeking out all other women like herself, all other women that wanted to compete in judo. The United States was very behind. Women were not getting into the same competitions as men. Clearly, women's judo was not in the Olympics, and Rusty thought that every woman should have the opportunity to be told, you're an Olympian.
The women had to wear belts. They had to wear, there was a stripe in the belt, because we were below the men. And that, obviously, she didn't go for too much. So we needed to wear belts like the men do. We needed to have a national championship. We had to have teams, USA judo teams, and we needed to compete in international competition. And then for the highest of all, the Olympics.
She was told that women's judo, in order to be considered as an Olympic sport, has to have several world championships first.
And you need enough female participants in order to get into those world competitions, and then you have to have those before you can have the Olympic Games.
And it should be like on an Olympic schedule, and you had to go through like the Pan Am World Championship. We had to have a World Championship.
Nobody else wanted to support a first women's world championship. So Rusty said, I'll do it.
It was very difficult. She was really on her own. I mean, we had people who would help her, but she was the driving force. She was amazing. She really was.
She took out a mortgage on our home. I don't think I was sold, but I was probably close to it.
I mean, I probably would have sold my house, my children, rented out my husband, whatever.
She mortgaged her house and everything. It was amazing. Madison Square Garden, 1980.
She gave women the opportunity to be told, you are a world champion now. As soon as it was done, as soon as everything was totaled and all bills were paid, she didn't even stop. She's like, okay, now women's judo should get into the 1984 Olympics. What's next? What do we have to do next?
We had hoped for 1984. Again, they said no. It was very disappointing.
She did everything out of her kitchen. All over the world, she did telephone calls in her kitchen.
I don't think they ever ate dinner on this table because it would be covered with all kinds of papers, petitions, and everything to get women's judo in every sporting event in the world that exists.
And she will not stop. She was relentless. She went to Los Angeles. She petitioned. She brought the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, on board. And she was trying to get an injunction to actually stop the Olympics because they were discriminating. I mean, there was no stopping Rusty.
She wouldn't say no. You could not say no to her. She would just keep coming.
What I saw from 1975 up until 1988 was Rusty every day, literally living for this to happen. And then finally it was a yes for 1988.
She successfully got women's judo into the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, Korea as a demonstration, and then subsequently it was accepted as a full sport in 1992 in Barcelona.
A lot of people ask me, what was it like to be in the Olympics? It's the greatest thing an athlete can do, but it's also the process of getting up to the Olympic Games. And I'm such a lucky person that I got to experience this ride with Rusty. She gave all of us young women an opportunity that we just wouldn't have had. She didn't have it.
By the way, she didn't just fight for equality in judo. She teamed up with the Women's Sports Foundation and Billie Jean King, and she went and fought for Title IX. It wasn't just judo that she wanted equality. She believed everybody should have equality.
I think Rusty would just want everybody to know to just fight for what you believe in and never stop. Be relentless, because Rusty was relentless.
If you have to defend it physically, verbally, spiritually, whatever way you have to defend it, Brooklyn people are always ready to pay the price for what they believe in. And it's being upfront and following through and not taking any crap from anybody.
She was my mother, and she was my coach. She was my mentor. She was my best friend. But I'm so proud to call her my mom for what she has done for not only being my mother, but being the mother of everybody. When you were with Rusty, you were one of Rusty's. She was your mother too.
The last time I saw Rusty before she passed away, we were sitting at the kitchen table with my mother. She was reminiscing about old times, and she was so satisfied with what she did, with women's judo, where she got it, where she took it, her goals. All her goals and her dreams came true. And she literally looked at me and said, if I were to die tomorrow, I could die happy. I get kind of choked up about that. Sorry. But that was very touching. Very touching. So I know Rusty. She's up there with my mother, and she's a happy woman.
She used to say that if you really wanted to do something, that the human spirit is very strong. And if you really want to do something, you can do it. You can do whatever you want to do. You can do it. And I believe it. Because she did it. You can accomplish anything.
Rusty. Rusty Kanokogi, in recognition for a lifetime of inspirational leadership and commitment to equality for women in sports.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For after 50 years, I'm getting a medal. Should have never been taken away from me. It was, but we're righting a wrong. So that's what counts. Soon after this whole negative experience, I didn't dwell on it. I just kept moving on.